Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to FPL the Onion. This is a show about Fantasy Premier League, and listening to it will make you better at FPL, guaranteed. And hopefully you might enjoy it more too. If you think XGI means someone who used to be in the American military, then this is the place for you. Gameweek 6 was a bit of a nightmare for most of us. Any questions, please put them in the comments below, and we will come back to you with our thoughts as soon as we can. As you can see, South Africa Tom is back with us tonight, as we follow the rule here on The Onion that all guests must be called Tom. Thanks for joining us, Tom. How the devil are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to dissecting the abysmal game week that 6 was.
Yeah, pretty horrendous for all of us, mate. No worries at all. Great to have you back on. Timestamp this. It is Wednesday evening, the 7th of September, and the Champions League games are just finishing up, and I don't know what any of the scores are. So, Tom, can you give us a quick rundown of the important information?
I can indeed. Napoli are battering Liverpool 4-1. Salah has been subbed off from 16. It looks like Luis Diaz is going to play the whole game. Just out of interest, Barcelona are winning 5-1, and Tottenham are beating Marseille 2-0 now with 2 late goals from Ricky Charlison.
Nothing from Son.
Interesting. Nothing from Son.
Is Son still on the pitch?
Son is not on the pitch. He was subbed on 86 for Matt Doherty.
Oh, Doherty's back.
Well, 4 minutes in the Champions League.
But when did they score the goals?
76 and 81.
Okay, so before Son went off. Interesting. Yeah, Salah is a bit of an issue now, isn't he? And I'm sure we'll come on to talk about that in terms of wildcard plans and premiums and everything else. But yeah, have you managed to listen to any FPL content so far this week?
I've watched a few. I've watched a few wildcard videos. There's a few interesting ones out there. Nothing's quite piqued my interest to go and do it. I think it's a bit early.
Yeah, I mean, we were messaging about it, weren't we? That on the chat that I think this week is the week to do it if you want to try and get some value, because there are lots of those picks who you would have on a wild card who I think are going to rise in price before the weekend, like Mitrovic, Zaha, Trossard, those kind of guys. But I think it feels a week too early for fixtures, and it feels a week too early. I mean, before tonight's Liverpool game, because obviously Tuchel got sacked this morning. I mean, I guess it's a bit more unlikely that Klopp's going to go, but they've had a pretty terrible start as well. And I just think before that Wolves game, you don't want to get rid of all your Liverpool players, and yet they're in dire straits at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, I suppose there are some mitigating factors, and the guys who are struggling, Leicester and Chelsea and Liverpool have got some key injuries, and I'm not going to make excuses for them, but there does seem to be some sort of element of that. Yeah, and the Tuchel thing does seem a bit rash, but maybe they'll get somebody in and make James and Mount and all of those guys start singing again, so they can get into our FPL teams.
Yeah, it's obviously a lot of the early talkers of Graham Potter going there, and bring the magic back. I think he'd be an amazing shout, but it is funny how quickly things can change in football and obviously in FPL as well. Because if he goes there, what does that then do to Brighton and the fact that they've had a good start?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think they'll be quite the team that they are under him, because he's really working miracles there.
No, not when Sam Allardyce gets in there and takes over anyway. So
Steve Bruce.
It is weird though. I mean, I reckon Brighton would probably appoint somebody who most of us had never heard of. They'd probably go and they're a very well-run club, and I think they know what they're doing. I don't immediately know who the candidates might be, but I think they would probably go and get some up-and-coming manager from the continent, but I'm not sure. But with somebody made a joke this morning. They were kind of saying, obviously Chelsea's looking for a new manager. They need, somebody who's got an international experience and has won trophies across Europe. And then they were like, oh, Tuchel, I've heard Tuchel's available. So it is pretty mad. I don't know. Outside of Potter, I don't know who they would go for. But is it Zidane as well who's being mooted for it?
Pochettino and Zidane as well.
That's it. Yeah. Is Pochettino working at the moment?
No, he's not.
Yeah, that is pretty mad.
He's waiting for the right project in inverted commas.
He's just always seems to be a bride since he left Spurs. Always a bridesmaid in English football, anyway. But he's been tipped for the United job about 3 times, I think. Right. Schlee's got this thing where he likes to guess the length of the episode. There's always a bit of a vested interest in this, I think, with Schlee, because he's always trying to get to bed. But given that you're an hour ahead, I think you're probably in that boat as well tonight.
I'm gonna put out a hopeful guess of around 40 minutes. That'll be 11:30 here, and that is way past my bedtime.
I'm going to do the really. I mean, I'm not sure how good this game is, but I'm just going to be cheeky and go for 41 minutes then, and then if it's slightly over, then I win, and I don't win anything, so it's pretty pointless. Anyway, right. Let's bring up my shambles of a team. Obviously, my overall rank's pretty horrendous at the moment. I'm not too fussed about it at the moment. Obviously, I'd like it to be sub 1 million, but the points are still pretty smushed together, to use a solid word. But it's been a bit of a disaster my season so far, and I think a couple of players who were in my team a couple of weeks ago who are now not, Marcus Rashford and Leon Bailey, both returned pretty well this week. Rashford getting 18 points. I can't remember how many Bailey actually got, but did he get any bonus against City?
I think he might have got a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, it's just pretty painful, really. I took Rashford out before Liverpool, knowing full well that he could score. Then I wanted him for Southampton, then he blanked, and then I'd kind of put him out of my mind because obviously Arsenal looked like a harder fixture, but he put them to the sword. That's his highest points tally ever in FPL, 18 points in one game.
2 goals and an assist.
Yeah. Pretty painful. But
I mean, I'm sitting here thinking he's definitely not going to replicate that against Palace, and but you never know. I think they were really up for that game. United definitely had the bit between their teeth. They really kind of were up for it.
Yeah. This is the thing that I don't know, because I've listened to a couple of things. Listened to Planet FPL's pod on Monday night, and James seems to think because Palace will sit in and they won't give the same amount of space, that he just won't have that space to run into, because that is when he's at his best, is when he's running from the halfway line and they can't deal with him, but their team seems to be pushed right up. But I don't expect Palace to play like that, so I feel like I can go without in one more week. But it's pretty soul destroying thinking that I had him in game week 1. Obviously, United had that terrible start, and then I took him out, and then since I've taken him out, he's done pretty well. But I think that's probably one of the things we need to make sure we forget about, is the idea of not getting him back in just because I had him at the start and then didn't have him. Because if he looks like a fantastic asset, I had him in game week 1 because he was 6.5 million and playing up front for a team that I thought could finish in the top 6, and that now looks like it is the case. He might be 6.6 now, but he's still ridiculous value if he stays in that team and they continue to be resurgent under Ten Hag. So I can't keep ignoring it. Anyway, what else happened in this game week? So the defence, big at the back, has kind of failed miserably at the moment. I still don't think we should be just running away from that completely yet. Obviously, wildcards are the way we can do that. But the fixtures this weekend, I think, mean that we don't have to jettison that. We don't have to wildcard now. I think we can give it one more week. And I think a lot of people who are wildcarding this week might find that, yes, they've managed to save some value, but actually the fixtures and just, before the fixtures turn, anybody who wildcards this week, I think, will be down on points against those who don't. But I think a massive spanner in the works on that is that Liverpool result tonight, because Salah getting hooked on 60 minutes, obviously there's something is up with him. He obviously, Mane left in the summer, he signed that new contract, but there's the Wolves game next. Do you think there's just no way you would even consider not having him in that Wolves game? I mean, he could be benched now, couldn't he?
I don't know what's going on with him, and also like this alarming pattern of Klopp like pulling Trent and Robertson off as a Trent and Robert owner. He keeps pulling them off. I mean, the 58 minutes was a bit of a low blow this last game week. I just wonder what's going on with that as well.
They were talking about that on Planet FPL, because they were saying, well, why is he taking them off? It's not like they were, winning the game comfortably. It was 0-0. He takes off Trent, who's arguably their most creative player, And then Robertson hasn't been playing well, but neither has Tsimikas apparently when he's been coming on. So it's just like, I don't know, it's just very, very strange. It's almost like Klopp doesn't really know whether he's kind of going backwards or, back to the old team, or he seems pretty lost trying to move the team forwards now. So it's very odd.
Yeah, I mean, Trent still looks like his output. He just needs something to click for him. But I think Robbo is seriously missing Sadio down the left there.
Yeah.
Like, I know they knew they were losing a world-class player, but it's really, really has affected them because he was a team player as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think, on a wild card, if I was going to wild card this week, I would keep Trent, but I think I would get rid of Salah and I would spread the funds around. But I think, again, the note of caution on that is if Salah, Salah's the other reason to look at potentially taking him out, whether it be this week or next week or game week 9, is that Liverpool's fixtures get really, really tough. Just have a very quick look at this. You look at Liverpool's fixtures and you look at the next 5 after Wolves. Chelsea away, obviously new manager, so that's, I think that probably is a more difficult fixture now because you think the players are going to be more up for kind of showing what they can do for the new manager. The defence actually hasn't been that good this season, but you would think it would kind of shore up, even if it's under an interim coach, although I fully expect them to have a new manager in for that game. Then you've got Brighton at home, although that now looks like a slightly easier fixture.
They'll have just lost their manager to the team before.
Yeah, if they've lost their manager, then that could be a slightly easier fixture, and it is at Anfield. And you've also got to think with all of this, even when you look at Arsenal away and City at home, these Liverpool players, they've won Premier League, they've won a Premier League, they've won the Champions League, they're no slouches. They know how to win football matches, and they are going to be hurting at the moment through what's going on. So even after this game, obviously it looks like they're in trouble, but they could be really, really up for it against Wolves. You saw what happened after they lost to United, and they then beat Bournemouth 9-0. So I certainly won't be taking my Liverpool players out before the Wolves at home game, but certainly if I wildcard in 8 or 9, I might well look to take Salah out for a few games. But the point I was going to make is if you do take him out on wildcard and spread all the funds around, and then suddenly, he scores against Arsenal and City, and you think, because they haven't had any penalties yet either. So he hasn't even had the chance to just take an easy penalty, and he is good at pens. But if they suddenly run into this run of fixtures, West Ham at home, Forest away, Leeds at home, and then obviously you've got Southampton at home before unlimited transfers, it would be really difficult to get Salah back if you spread the funds all through the team. It might take 3 or 4 transfers to get him back in. So, that's...
Unless you do like a De Bruyne move or something like that.
Yeah, true. And that's the other thing. But it's when I was putting together a kind of draft wildcard for this week, it is pretty exciting what you can... It always is, right? But it's pretty exciting to see what you could do when you spread all the funds around. So let me bring this back. Hang on a sec. There we go. I seem to be losing Tom from here for some reason. Not sure why we're losing you there, Tom, but we can still hear you, I think. So
I think, that's all right.
Hopefully you'll jump back up on the next screen, because I'll try and fix it halfway through the stream and break everything. But what else happened this game week? So Forest defence, I just don't think we can rely on it at all. I remember you were kind of looking at Henderson as your goalkeeper replacement a couple of weeks ago, but I don't think he's going to be getting pen saves every week. And I just think I think Forest are in big trouble. I think losing that Bournemouth game is huge. I think they've got a couple of injuries in their defence as well, but I can see Forest having signed 50 players getting relegated. So Nico Williams is good value still, obviously, because he's so cheap, but I might on a wild card try and find, especially now that they're going to have a new manager, depending on who that is, but I might try and find the kind of 0.3, 0.4 to get Fofana in as that kind of spot. That seems like better value to me. But I mean, obviously Williams got the assist in this game, great, but I just don't ever see Forest getting clean sheets, unfortunately. Perisic has been an absolute disaster for me. My transfers generally this season have been a bit disastrous, really. I really wanted to do Perisic to Trippier just before the deadline, because obviously there was talk that Perisic wouldn't start. I thought there is a chance that he does. I didn't think it was a good one, but I didn't know that Trippier was going to get 8 points, but obviously if I'd made that move, I would have, been up on the transfer and also would have Trippier going forward instead of Perisic against City. But I'm kind of a little bit stuck on that now because I did one transfer before this game week, which was downgrading Rodrigo after another really really bad transfer in terms of luck. Got Rodrigo in, and then he obviously dislocates his shoulder like 30 minutes into the game. So I knew he was going to drop in price, although he didn't drop as fast as I thought. So I brought in Sean Longstaff in order to have the money to go Archer to Mitrovic this week. Again, I didn't want to do Mitrovic last week because I thought Spurs is a tough game. They'll keep him out, and then literally like in the 85th minute he scores. So again, I would have been up, only slightly up on that, but it would have been nice to have Mitrovic. But imagine if I'd taken a -8 and got like Mitrovic instead of Archer and then Perisic down to Trippier. You'd have been like, that's a -8, that's horrendous. But it would have worked for me. But this is the game, right? But so Mitrovic would definitely be coming in this week anyway, I think. But yeah, now it's Chelsea, isn't it? Which before I was looking at and thinking, well, the defence has been looking really shaky, but they might well have a kind of new manager bounce. And certainly that team with the squad that they've got, the players that they've got, they could absolutely smash Fulham, couldn't they now? Like Chilwell looks like the kind of person you should be bringing in on like a 1 week punt because he's such a powerful player. But yeah, there's been a lot of change. So maybe if I am thinking about, and I guess this is advice to other people as well, if you are thinking about wildcarding in kind of game week 8 or game week 9, again, you don't want to kind of paint yourself into a corner because it might be nicer to wildcard in game week 12 or 13 if your team's looking strong. But if you're pretty certain that you are going to wildcard in 8 or 9, then it might be a good idea to, instead of thinking, right, I'll pick a long-term transfer, just to look at a fixture and go for a 1 week punt. And maybe a Chelsea player against Fulham is a good shout, but who knows? Anyway, Haaland captain. Obviously it was fine, but I should have kept Rashford and captained him instead. So let me just try and do something with your video here, Tom, because I do seem to be losing it for some reason. I'm not sure why. Let me try and copy this here. Dun, dun, dun. Right, there we go. I seem to be losing it off every slide. Let me try and paste it in here as well. Right, do you want to talk us through your game week?
Sure. It's what I'm trying to forget. As you alluded to, big at the back has definitely not worked for me in this game week with a solid sort of one for Trent, 2 for Cancelo, 1 for James, 1 for Robbo, and 1 for Perry. That's a hell of a lot of money spent for 6 points.
Yeah, that's horrendous, isn't it?
I mean, literally my only returns was kind of Pascal Gross with an assist and Haaland with his goal and some lovely bonus points, which were very welcome.
Yeah, but that I said to you a couple of weeks ago, that is literally the best defense in the game that you could pick, and yet they've gotten you like whatever it is, 6 points or something. It's just absolutely horrendous.
It's really like the first game week where none of them have bailed each other out, because they've had you've had 12 from Cancelo in some weeks and 17 from Trent, and like James has maybe got 7 or 8, and they've just all decided to just have a day off, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
I was also kicking myself because I was very close to bringing Pope in instead of Sanchez. That would have been really nice.
What did Pope get in the end? Like 10 or something?
I think it was 10.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was annoying, but I suppose Sanchez has got Bournemouth next. So, going into that's probably the best goalkeeper fixture you can have. So I'm quite happy about that in the long run. Maybe that works out.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing about Brighton, though, is that their fixtures turn, don't they? They turn pretty nastily.
Actually, after this week, I'm going to have to do something about Sanchez because you said the Brighton Palace game is postponed following game week.
Yeah, that's true. Let's just chat about that quickly, because that happened not long ago. I think a few hours ago they announced that the Brighton versus Palace fixture, it's at Brighton, but I think they're obviously worried about the London train strikes and the fact that the Palace fans won't be able to get down to Brighton. but it's a postponement for next weekend. So not this weekend, but next. And obviously, I was thinking about bringing Louis Zaha in. I think a lot of people will have done that. A lot of people will have Brighton assets. I've got Gross. You've got Gross. You've got Sanchez. Schlee's got Dunk, I think. So there's a lot of people with Brighton assets. And I think it just probably means a lot more people are going to wildcard next week. Because I think they'll just see it.
Probably.
They'll just be like, well, I've got 3 players in that game or 4 players in that game. I might as well, just add it onto the list of other issues, like, having warding as a sub goalkeeper. And, there's a general fixture turn anyway. I think it probably just will force a lot more people to wildcard next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's probably very likely. But yeah, if you look at Brighton's fixtures on here just very quickly. So now it's a blank next week, and then it goes into Liverpool away, Tottenham at home, Brentford at home, fine. Forest at home, fine. But then you've also got then City and Chelsea as well. So Brentford and Forest in the middle there are okay. Although I think Brentford against Brighton, I wouldn't necessarily think will be a clean sheet for Brighton. Forest is a good fixture for them, but then straight into kind of City and Chelsea as well. So yeah.
Yeah. I suppose the other big story of game week 6 was Toney's hat trick, and then him going and bigging himself up on Twitter afterwards, and then slagging off all the managers who took him out.
Yeah, I should have probably grabbed a screenshot of that tweet, because again, it just shows how much in kind of the national psyche, or the kind of footballing psyche, FPL, how it's kind of got in there now, because the players just are so aware of what's going on in FPL, aren't they? And it is weird how it's gotten so big now.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, a lot of them play, don't they? So
yeah, exactly. And that, again, there's a couple of accounts. I think Hub have somebody who kind of does like YouTube shorts where they'll say like, this player captain this player. I think it was who was it? Calvin Phillips captain Haaland this week. So they were like, oh yeah, that means they knew he was going to start. And it's just still interesting. There's still a lot of information there. And then the other one was Jacob Ramsey has had himself in his team all season and hasn't been getting any returns, and then he got an assist against City. And they're like, good on you, Jacob, for having faith in yourself. There was one really interesting one. I'm going to forget what it was, but somebody picked. I think it might have been an Arsenal player. I think they brought in Rashford or something. I can't remember who it was, but it might have been like an Arsenal defender or someone, and they brought in Rashford, and you're like, that's pretty dodgy, that sort of stuff. I wonder whether at some point they will have to stop it. But I guess it's that thing again where when there's gambling, they're not allowed to gamble on football. If you found out that they were all playing in like massive money mini leagues in their own, within their own squads and stuff, it could get a little bit controversial. But yeah, at the moment they're not banned from playing, but I guess it just adds a bit of spice to it, doesn't it?
Well, it should all be fun, apart from that at the Villa where they kind of knew that Grealish wasn't going to play for someone taking him out of the fantasy team or some nonsense. I don't remember what that was.
I think that was the end of Dean Smith. As soon as he said, I live in the real world, not the fantasy world, that was it. That was the end of him. It was such a great soundbite.
What a great soundbite!
I couldn't take him seriously after that. He told me he lived in the real world, but I couldn't take him seriously. Oh dear. Yeah. So, anything else in your game week? I mean, it is. Yeah, you had a bit of a stinker, didn't you? It was horrendous.
It was pretty. I mean, when you're sitting, hopefully watching the Brighton game, hoping that Pascal Gross is going to rescue your game week, things have gotten pretty desperate.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, though, let's bring up the fact that a few weeks ago when you brought in Gross, I said that he was a massive troll, because I look back and the most he'd ever gotten in a season was like 1 goal, 1 assist, or 2 goals, 1 assist, or something like that. And then when he got I think he got like 8 points followed by 11 points, and you were messaging me saying, oh, is he a troll? And then as soon as I brought him in, he's kind of slowed right down, hasn't he? Which was inevitable.
Well, listen, he is kind of a troll. I think he's just kind of benefiting from definitely like a positional change and a system change at the moment, because he never was. But I mean, I just kind of looked at the stats and thought it was worth a gamble. There wasn't really anything else at that price point that interested me, so I just went for it. Yeah.
No, he's a good footballer though, isn't he? Was he at Huddersfield? Is that where he came from? Because there was him.
Don't know.
Think so. I can't remember where he was, but he was at a Premier League team, I think, and he got relegated. But he actually was quite creative in that team. And he was obviously a good player. He was obviously a quality player, but I can't remember who it was. But I'm a bit worried about him now. If Potter does go to Chelsea, which I think he will, because I think it's that thing where he's doing really well at Brighton, but Chelsea is a massive club compared to Brighton. Sorry, Brighton fans. But I think Potter will end up going there because the money that Chelsea will be offering will be way and above what Brighton are paying as well. And he'll look at that squad. Imagine looking down that squad list and being like, yep, I want to manage these players. And all he needs to do is sort out the kind of attack and the striking positions. And he could be getting them in the top 4 every season, and he could be managing in the Champions League. I don't think that's something he's going to turn down.
So he won't. I mean, he just needs, as you said, he just needs to imprint his kind of footballing style on that team, and he's tactically so flexible and actually astute that he can only really do well.
I think he's going to do brilliantly there. I think Tottenham fans might be a bit gutted. Obviously, they've done well with Conte, but I think a lot of Tottenham fans were thinking, well, probably a lot, any team in the top 6 was probably thinking, if our manager goes, we want Potter to come in. But I just remember when he was at Ostersunds, and I remember seeing a kind of a short documentary or somebody did a little article on him or a little report on him. And he because he obviously was an English manager who'd gone to Sweden or wherever it is, Finland or Sweden, he'd built this unbelievable team spirit where he'd got the players all doing things in the local community, and the local community were turning up in droves to watch this team because they were a good team, but they were also loved by the community because they got so involved with it, and they just all bought into it massively. And it's just obvious he was going to be an amazing coach. But to have had the rise that he's had since he was, I remember they played Arsenal I think it was in the UEFA Cup or the Europa League or something, and they did really well. But because he'd gotten a little bit of press and obviously was this English manager, we've all followed him. But to go from there to Swansea to Brighton and now probably to Chelsea is a massive, massive rise.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And I think the Tottenham fans will also be gutted because they know that Conte is probably only going to stick around for 2 seasons anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of, I wonder if that's one of the reasons why they've done it now. Because Tuchel, they've had a bad start, but Tuchel is a brilliant manager and he is proven. But maybe they're just thinking, right, we'll just get this guy now because Brighton have had such a great start. But
I heard rumours that he's not, like, Tuchel has kind of not really been like communicating to the higher ups or his players. He's like become a bit withdrawn. So right. I suppose kind of writes itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, because they have still spent a decent amount of money, but I think they spent like 130 million or 140 million or something, but they haven't sorted out the attack. And yet you could imagine the management saying, well, we're not going to back you to buy another striker because, the previous administration spent 100 million quid on Lukaku and it just failed miserably. You didn't even use him and you fell out with him. So,
well, they've spent a fortune. I mean, they've spent nearly, I think it's more like 220 million.
Oh, is it? Yeah. And
still, like Sterling looks like a cheap one at 50.
Oh, that's right.
Was over 50, Fofana 70.
Yeah.
They've spent a boatloads of cash.
Yeah. No. And they were also looking at Anthony Gordon, weren't they, for like another 70 million or something. You're like, what are you guys doing? This is mad. But anyway.
No, they didn't need Gordon.
No. Yeah, so anything else in here? Should we have a look at Schlee's team? The one thing to note is your overall rank is 807, which I think actually is pretty good for this season at this stage. And I think there's a lot of good managers who are lower down who are going to all be trying to clamber up, with the 3 of us included. But if you look at your overall rank at 807, haven't got like overall points here, but I think you were saying before this that Schlee's only 7 points ahead of you, and yet his rank, if we bring this up now, he's like nearly 300,000 places higher up than you, and only 7 points difference. So again, just for anyone listening to this, that don't worry too much about rank at the moment because it can change very, very quickly. You have one player who's not high owned who does well, and you'll absolutely fly up the ranks. So. And people have been complaining that it's a bit boring this season because there haven't been kind of obvious transfers to make or, ways in which they can improve. And yet we are about to enter a period where, the big teams are playing every 3-4 days in the Champions League and the league. And obviously the fixtures are about to turn. We're kind of running into this group of fixtures now heading into the World Cup. So that's going to change everything as well. So it is probably just about to get a bit more crazy and chaotic again. We've obviously already got a cancellation, which means we're going to have a double game week at some point, etc., etc. See how I'm trying to get really excited about it.
It's working. I'm excited.
You're excited. I'm excited. Let's go for it. So I've got Schlee's team up on screen now. You know, I said that Tom had an absolute stinker with 36 points. Well, Schlee got 35. So make of that what you will. Pretty terrible. Again, he's just very, very unlucky. Haaland captain is the kind of only return in his team. I can't see what Luis Diaz has got there because it's too small on my screen. But is it a 3? I think it's a 3, isn't it? Because they had the 0-0.
Yeah.
But yeah, only return from Haaland, so a bit of a stinker. But still, he's had a good start to the season, just outside 500k. And I think I haven't got a slide up for Schlee's next game week, but he's planning on doing, I think either was it either a goalkeeper transfer? Was it Edison to Pope he's thinking of doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he had a few maybe booked in for next week.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what they were, but I think he's got 2 free transfers again, I think, hasn't he? Because I think he only made one last week and then rolled again. He really did get a bit of a leg up on me just by starting with Haaland rather than Kane, both in kind of getting those points from Haaland the first game week, but also just then being able to roll these transfers over. So I'm always like one transfer behind at the moment. So, yeah, he's had a pretty decent start and he's got a decent platform to build from now. But okay, let's jump across to my preview for game week 7. So this is the bus team. It's exactly the same at the moment as the previous team. I've got my captaincy on Haaland. I think we'll talk about captaincy in a little bit. I've got Longstaff on the bench here again. I think my planned move is still Archer to Mitrovic. But again, I think I might look at this again and just think, right, well, if I am gonna wildcard next week, which I think I probably will, it'll either be next week or the week after. I don't love the fact that Mitrovic has got Chelsea. He could well score again, but I don't think he's not going to go 17 pointer. Whereas I think I might just go. I've got I can't remember exactly what I've got in the bank, like 2.4 or something like that, maybe more. And so I could pretty much pick any kind of punt here, and go for it. So this is the danger of kind of planning transfers in. You think, I'll do this, and then obviously Tuchel gets sacked and maybe Potter leaves Brighton, and suddenly it's looking very different. But if I am going to wildcard next week or the week after, I might actually have a look at a little 1 or 2 week punt. But maybe Rashford again. I don't think I could do it. I just think mentally I couldn't go back there and then watch him blank against Palace, because I actually, unlike the Liverpool game, I think he will blank against Palace.
I do too.
So
I just have this sneaky feeling. Yeah.
So I could go. Who have Newcastle got? A West Ham away. That's not great, is it? That's the other thing, right? Because on the wildcard, I would like Pope. I'd like Trippier. There's people looking at Isak, but I don't love that West Ham away fixture really for Newcastle. I think West Ham, they've started to turn it around a bit. Did they get a decent result in Europe and they've looked better?
Yeah,
I
they've woken up a bit, haven't they?
Yeah, so I think that could be a draw, that Newcastle West Ham game, maybe a score draw. So I'm not loving that, but maybe I do. What do you think? Do you think I should still just do Mitrovic and just, because then I don't necessarily need to wildcard then because I'm still in decent shape?
Yeah, I mean, I would quite like to be able to play three up top just to kind of mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's some obvious bandwagons with sort of Toney and Rashford and Mitrovic and what have you. And, sometimes when you get on those bandwagons, they don't immediately kind of fire. But yeah, I think Mitrovic looks like he can score against anybody at the moment. So I'm not particularly scared of him playing Chelsea. I mean, if they're going to score, it's going to be through him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing, is because that's why I was doing it, because I was trying to move to the 3 up front without necessarily having to use the wild card to do it. Because I still quite like, I do think there is something in the fact that a lot of people who, as I was saying earlier, a lot of people who will wildcard this week will wildcard away from these these good players. And I know they're not having the best start to the season, but they will take out the likes of Salah. I think there'll be people who take out Trent. People will be taking out their Brighton assets. I still think this team could be good for a couple of weeks. And so I feel like almost by standing still, if everyone else is moving away from good players, I think somebody was saying the other day, and again, I do think the result tonight against Napoli and him getting hooked early is not good. But then maybe he's got a rest, and so he's definitely going to play against Wolves. But I do think I am a bit worried about Salah actually. But again, I don't, it's a bit like with Perisic before the game last week. I just don't think I'm going to take Salah out. He could be benched, but that's why I've got Sean Longstaff waiting there to come in for him. So this season's been great so far, but
I didn't ever think I'd see Sean Longstaff on your bench.
He's 4.4, and until Gomeris gets back in, he's playing, and he got an assist the week before that. It's kind of like Schlee's thinking on bringing in Ben Mee. He scored a goal the week before, so get him in. But no, I just think if I bring in Mitrovic this week, it's the kind of sensible play, because then it means that I've got him going forward for his great fixtures from game week 8 anyway, and I don't think I have to then force the wild card, because I think if everyone's wild carding in game week 8, I mean, I've only got one Brighton player, so I don't need to be too worried about that postponement next week. And who have Fulham got next week, game week 8? Fulham have got Forest away,
That's beautiful.
So I could just play Pereira in that game and bench Gross. So that's fine. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to force the wild card if I don't need to do it, and I don't really want to plan it in, because as we've seen today, things can change really fast, can't they?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but my team value is horrendous at the moment. So if there's any time to wildcard to get on price rises, for me it should probably be now, because I'm going to end up with. I'll be looking at teams who've got fantastic wildcards, and I'll be like 2 million below them in terms of team value. But anyway, the other issue I've got is Sarr in goal, Liverpool away, but it could be, maybe it's a good time to have that. I remember when I brought in Kulusevski and I had Sarr, and I benched Sarr, I think, because he was playing Spurs, and I was thinking, I really want Kulu to score. That'll be annoying. But actually, by the time it was like 60, 70 minutes into that game and Kulu hadn't done anything and Wolves were hanging on, I was like, I actually really wished I'd had Sarr. Now, he did concede in the end, but I think he's still got more points than Ward, who I've got on my bench. But even with Ward at home to Villa, I'd still just keep Sarr in at Liverpool. I just think Leicester are just an absolute joke.
Mind you, Ward's been very consistent. He's got one in every single game week so far.
This is the thing is, though, I mean, it's classic kind of FPL manager where I've got the vice captain on Salah at the moment. That might well change, but I've got Trent and Salah playing against Sarr, and I'm kind of like, I'm hoping for complete opposites at exactly the same time, aren't I? So I'm hoping Salah gets a hat-trick, but I'm also hoping Sarr makes a couple of penalty saves. So
that scenario is always going to crop up during season, isn't it?
I don't think I've ever had it, though. It'd be some sort of medal or some sort of achievement in FPL if Salah missed a penalty and my keeper saved it. That would be pretty good. I think I'd have that. So I think I'm gonna leave that as it is. But anything you would do with this team, Tom? Wildcard it?
I don't think I'm not convinced about wildcarding right now. Maybe I'm being a bit stubborn, but I want to see this big at the back fire one game week and really kind of come good. It's a good differentiator. I don't see any like burning issues other than kind of, as we said, getting on the bandwagons and the price rises, which I think will come if you kind of wild card in the international break between 8 and 9 is where sort of I think some of the more active managers will start really kind of making the trades, making the prices go up and down.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because I have thought that, and that is a train of thought for the last few seasons. And yet in those international breaks, the people who wildcard, whenever you hear like the content creators talking about it, the prices aren't really changing much, because lots of people they're not looking at it because there's an international break, so they're not making transfers. They make a few, people make transfers, the knee-jerk transfers, because somebody got a couple of goals unexpectedly before the international break starts. But also, if people are on wildcard and they're making transfers, those transfers don't count towards the price rises and falls anyway. So I think it used to be, do you remember when people would rise like 0.3 in a week? Like Aguero would get a hat-trick and he'd rise 0.3 and you could almost set your watch by it. It just doesn't happen anymore. It is mad. Yeah. So I don't think that the price rises will be massive in that week. I'm also just looking at this again. You're saying about big at the back, but this week, because Spurs play City, you've got Cancelo and Perisic against each other, that might be another reason to wildcard. But again, you're not going to. Are you really going to take Cancelo out on a wildcard? I don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, maybe you need to solve Perisic, but who do you go to?
That again, it might be the 1 week punt. So maybe it's Chilwell because I've got the money to do it. I could just do
his finish for that second goal against West Ham was just so good for a defender.
He's amazing, and if he is back fit, and again, you'd think if they do put in place, if they put in place a temporary manager, or if they, if the caretaker comes in and does it, not the caretaker, but a caretaker, just like, don't worry, lads, I'll pick the team this week. But they're going to want to play Chilwell because they know how good he is. And if ever you're a caretaker manager, the one thing you want to do is win your game, the game that you have, managing the team. So I'd certainly, if they handed me the reins at Chelsea, I'd put Chilwell in the team probably first.
James and Chilwell would be the first names on the team sheet.
Yeah, exactly.
Play them as wing backs.
Exactly. So maybe that might be a much more exciting punt than getting Mitrovic in. I just bring in Chilwell at left wing back and just have some fun with it. But then I am wildcarding next week though.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm yet to be convinced.
Okay, fair enough. Right, your team for your bus team is on screen.
Very much the same as what we just saw.
Yeah, similar, very similar.
I was talking about doing Perisic to Trippier, but that West Ham, as you said, that West Ham fixture just doesn't really fill me with a load of optimism. And then obviously the Brighton news as well means that if I roll this week, I'll be able to do something about Sanchez and Gross. Or yeah. I mean, the little devil on my shoulder with you whispering, take a punt. Maybe a punt's quite nice this week. I'm not really going to be able to do. I mean, there's not enough money in Gross to do anything very interesting. I think I'll give Salah another week, Liverpool another week.
Because you wouldn't take Gross out before Bournemouth anyway this week for a punt, would you?
No, definitely not.
No.
So I mean, it probably literally would be doing something with Perry. I think I've got 0.3 in the bank, so I don't know if that means I can get to a Chilwell or something like that.
I think you might be able to actually. I haven't got the website open, but I'm sure Chilwell must have had a couple of price drops, so he must be like 5.
Yeah, he must be at 5.8.
I would think so. So yeah, you could do that as well, couldn't you?
I might be quite interested in that. What's Perisic get freaking 2 assists against City now?
Yeah, and a clean sheet.
And a cleanie. Yeah, that would be very disappointing.
Because that's the other thing we need to look at, and that's the other reason why I didn't want to make early transfers this week. Is that?
Yeah, I could do Chilwell.
Yeah, because I just wonder. I mean, obviously we need to look at how many minutes Chilwell got in the Champions League, but we also need to look at because they lost last night, didn't they? But I think he did play last night.
I'll get it up now.
But then the other thing is how many minutes Perisic got.
He got 71 minutes.
Yeah, I think he's going to start at the weekend, Chilwell.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
It
doesn't matter. I've got De Silva and Pereira to come off the bench if he does.
I think he will. Do you know how many minutes Perisic got tonight? You got that?
Perisic got the entire game.
Did he?
90 mins and an assist.
He's not going to play, is he?
No.
Yeah, I think that is pretty solidifying in my head that that's the move because although you're thinking, oh well, it's City, Spurs, and Conte's going to want to play his best team. I think he feels like Sessegnon's pretty solid, and he has played him in big games. I think he must. In fact, he started the Chelsea game in Gameweek 2, didn't he? And then he brought Perisic on at the end, but. He's obviously not afraid of playing Sessegnon, and obviously Conte's systems and the way he plays, it's not necessarily all about personnel, it's about the system. So I think Sessegnon will play against City at the weekend.
So I mean, we're Wednesday now, and the City fixture is...
It'd be Sunday. It'd be the Sunday game.
It's actually on Saturday.
Is it?
Yeah.
What, the 5:30 game?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't think Perisic is going to play then.
Seems amazing because it is the hardest game you're going to play all season. So you'd think you'd play your best left back in that game, but
Yeah, but because again, we don't
minutes.
know. He might not think Perisic is as good defensively as Sessegnon, because let's not forget that up until 3 years ago, Perisic was an out-and-out left winger, wasn't he? He wasn't a left back.
True.
Whereas Sessegnon is, in fact, a left back. So it might not be an amazing one.
Defend.
He actually defends. And because City aren't... Who does City have out on the right anyway? Is it Mahrez if he plays, but has it been Bernardo this season out on the right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Or has Bernardo been deeper? I can't remember.
Oh, it's actually really hard to say because they always kind of seem to be moving around and changing position. And
yeah, and there's been a lot of talk of the fact...
It's not Foden out that side.
No, but there has been talk about... Guardiola's been talking up Grealish because he wants to get him back in the team because he thinks that he helps with control of the ball. Because Guardiola's been a bit annoyed this season with Haaland's amazing, but he doesn't touch the ball very much. He's not involved in their passing game, so he wants to get more of these players who are really comfortable in that system. And so maybe Foden will move out to the right and Grealish will go left. But Bernardo's been great again at the start, hasn't he? So who knows? Anyway, right. Yeah, I do like that. I like that idea of that Perisic to Chilwell punt. That could be good fun this week. But I do think it then means that I probably have to wildcard next week.
With the wildcard looming, it doesn't really make sense to make a sensible transfer anyway, does it?
No, but that's the thing. I mean, if we are going to wildcard, I guess the only thing is, it's just whether we would then regret not just wildcarding in, like in game week 13 to kind of bring these players back again. Because if we just look at the fixtures again, looks like I've lost your image again, Tom. Let's see if I can fix that. Copy. There we go. Got you back. I'm not sure what's going on with OBS, but if we look at these fixtures, I think in 13 or 12 or 13, a lot of the, you look at Arsenal, they've got a pretty bad run coming up. Tottenham, Liverpool and City, although all at home with Leeds away in the middle, but then it goes back to kind of Southampton away, Forest, Chelsea, Wolves before the World Cup. So I think there is something strong in potentially kind of wildcarding back in 13. Liverpool's run obviously turns back to blue in 12. City again, goes good again. Brighton, Leicester, Fulham, Brentford. That's pretty amazing before the World Cup. Even United, I noted obviously it's a game later, but West Ham, Villa, Fulham, and I think after the World Cup they have great fixtures. But obviously we can make unlimited transfers. Tottenham. Game week 13, Newcastle, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Leeds. A little bit tough with Newcastle and Liverpool in there. But, the bigger teams seem to have pretty decent fixtures coming back again in 12 and 13. So everyone's talking about it, but it's either you wildcard some of those players out. Again, I don't think we're all going to be wildcarding all of them out. That would be a bit silly. But wildcarding some of them out, like wildcarding some Arsenal out, some Liverpool out, etc., and getting on the likes of kind of Newcastle and people talking about getting on Bournemouth, although I don't know. I think it's great if the fixtures look good, but if you're probably going to get relegated anyway, I'd expect all these teams to beat Bournemouth anyway.
Yeah.
But it's either you wildcard them out and then use transfers to bring some of them back, or you carry your team through, take some of them out, like you take a Salah out for a De Bruyne, even though their fixtures are pretty tough as well. And then you powerfully kind of wildcard the perfect team back in for that run into the World Cup.
Yeah, it is a mix. It is a bit of a mixed bag, the fixtures, isn't it? There's not like a real clear strategy you can get behind and say,
no,
oh great, I'm going to because just even the thought of subbing all your Liverpool and Arsenal players out for Newcastle guys and Fulham guys and Brentford guys just doesn't kind of sound right. But anyway, they've been outstripping them for the last 2 or 3 game weeks anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing that I think a lot of us forget sometimes is we're so focused on the fixtures now with all the content creators looking at it. And obviously you're playing the odds there, but you forget the outliers. You forget the fact that players like Zaha seem to do better against the good teams. And then so when Crystal Palace have a great run of fixtures, we get Zaha in and then we're all shocked that he suddenly stops performing. And it's because he plays on the break. He wants to hit players on the break. He's not good when teams sit back against them and think, well, playing Palace today, they're a good side, let's sit in. And Zaha doesn't know how to deal with it. It's the same with Rashford. The stat on Planet FPL was he's had something like, and I'm going to butcher it, so please go and listen to Planet FPL, but he's got something like 6 out of his last 7 double-digit returns have all been against top 6 sides. Because he likes to hit them on the break. Like if United go a goal up in those games, those teams are pushing up to try and score, and he's just hitting them on the break, like sucker punches late on in the games.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, we're so focused on the fixtures, you'd have to kind of sit down and really, really look at it. But I think this week it just doesn't make sense when you've got Liverpool with a decent home fixture, even though Wolves are a tough defence. You've got to think that Liverpool are going to score in that game. And I think we don't know what's going on with Chelsea. Obviously, they got Fulham. That's not bad either. But now the idea of like Mitrovic playing a Chelsea team that are kind of changing, I do like the fact of the idea of looking somewhere else. But I do like the idea of. I think there'll be people. I'll be jealous of people who have wildcards in Gameweek 13.
Yeah,
I think so. But so maybe that's it. Maybe the punt of bringing in Chilwell. I mean, Chelsea have got Liverpool next week, haven't they? So, but then Chelsea's run is absolutely ridiculous. So maybe getting Chilwell in isn't the worst thing in the world, even if you don't decide to wildcard.
I quite like it because I've always liked Chilwell. I mean, it was really like a toss up between him and James when we started the season. It was just because we knew Chilwell wasn't going to start that we didn't pick him.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had him in every single draft. Right up until we got close towards the start of the season, you were like, actually, he's just not fit. He's not playing any minutes in pre-season. But when he is on the pitch, his output is absolutely ridiculous. Like before he got injured at the start of last season, he was outscoring James massively, wasn't he? So
yeah, to have both of them just feels like hedging your bets.
Yeah, I really like that punt. I hope Schlee doesn't listen to this pod because I don't think he'll go for Chilwell, but I reckon we'll have talked him into it. That would be a play, wouldn't it? Bring in Chilwell and captain him. Whew. Seems to have lost your video again. Let me try and get it
spicy.
Back. Can you imagine that? That'd be glorious.
Spicy.
And I don't see Chilwell on this list either. This is again from Fantasy Football Scout, the captain poll. Haaland, obviously the runaway leader on this. This is the worst looking slide in the world. Schlee will be absolutely devastated with this. Look at it. It's absolutely pathetic.
Chilwell's just under Martinelli, by the way.
Oh, is he? Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, exactly. Just cut him off. But yeah, sorry, Schlee. This is a horrendous looking slide. Focal, if you saw this, would be astounded with the level of production on this. Screen grab, anyone? But Are you on Haaland?
Fantasy Football Scout.
You're on Haaland like me, but it's a tough game, isn't it? Spurs. So
it is a tough game, but he's just unplayable at the moment. I don't think we've really seen anything like him for a while, and I just don't see it stopping unless he's not getting minutes, which he looks like Pep's managing him. I don't think he's really played many full 90s, and the way he's just strolling into that box with his 18 touches in a game and just literally absolutely lethal.
Yeah, he's incredible, isn't he? He's just like the complete forward, isn't he? And he'll do 2-3 years at City and then probably go to Real Madrid and just break all the records. But he's absolutely ridiculous. But I guess the thing is, we were talking about people being obsessed with fixtures. That fixture doesn't look great, does it? I think, Conte's going to know, he's a master of the dark arts. He's going to know what they're coming with Haaland. He's obviously seen that Villa managed to slow him down a bit last week, but I don't know. Conte might be like the perfect manager to stop him.
I don't think Tottenham are that amazing at the back to be able to stop them getting in.
Yeah.
Because I think Romero's still out, so he's basically going to be playing against Eric Dyer. I think he could literally just say, Dyer, get in my pocket, and I'm going to be scoring. I'm going to be getting at least a brace here.
I don't know, because I mean, if it's funny,
the alternative is Salah and he's just been hooked up.
I'm not. I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not.
Battered,
I'm definitely not captaining Salah this week.
I mean, Jesus has really only like fired in one of the games, and he's basically got 6 in all of his other games. So I mean, Jesus, I'm not really that excited about either. I mean,
It's a good fixture though.
it's a good
It's a
fixture.
very good
Everton is
fixture, and it's a very good
fixture.
fixture. Although having said that, again, we've got to be really careful with this because you look at these teams, you're like, oh, it's Lampard's Everton, whatever. But since they've now got that defense, it's Tarkowski and who's the other one?
Cody.
And Cody, yeah. So they're seasoned Premier League defenders, very very solid. You were kind of looking at both of them. Tarkowski, obviously, maybe not so much, but Cody, you were like, what's he doing going there? Like that's a strange move, and yet they've gone in there. They've formed a pretty good defence. Obviously, they kept Liverpool out last week. Now, Liverpool aren't the Liverpool we know, but maybe actually it isn't as easy a fixture as we've come to kind of think of with Everton.
I've been reading quite a lot, and those two are real leaders on the pitch, and absolutely they have turned it around. They definitely have. I don't think it's going to be as easy as Arsenal just strolling there and sort of scoring 3. I don't think that'll be I think Arsenal will win the game because they're definitely going to be hurting after the United fixture.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I do think that is why a lot of us, like, that's the other thing about not wildcarding this week. We want, you have a bad week in FPL and you think, right, well, that's it. I'm changing a couple of players, or I'm taking a -8, or I'm wildcarding, whatever. And actually what you're doing is taking out players who didn't perform last week. So they kind of need to perform this week. Like, players don't, you don't often get a player who gets a hat-trick. I mean, obviously Haaland's done it this season, but you don't often get players who get a hat-trick and then get a hat-trick the next week, because it's almost like, you imagine the mindset of getting a hat-trick. Do you really need to try as hard in training the following week? Are you really trying to prove yourself? Or are you strolling around the club thinking, I got a hat-trick last weekend? Like, there's a reason why these things kind of go in peaks and troughs. And so if your FPL team got 35 points, Shlee, 36 points, Tom, 44 points, me, last week, the chances are you're getting 70 or 80 this week, even without making any transfers at all. Because those players have to perform this week because they didn't last. It doesn't always work like that, and obviously not all of them are going to perform, but like the good players in the team, and hopefully you've got good players in your FPL team and you pick them for a reason. Like there's so many people who took Toney out because he got 2 blanks. But he knows in his mind he got 2 blanks, so he's lining up there, ready for that game thinking, I've got to score this game. I think there's quite a lot.
It was an absolute brilliant hat-trick. I must take my hat off to you though, Nick, because you sort of saying that you were a transfer behind Shlee, that the Nick Hughes of old would have been taking multiple hits usually at this point in the season. Or I mean, and I'm like a real I like a rage transfer. At least I used to like a rage transfer if things weren't going well. I'd have just tried to sort of just have this measured, like, I know it's a bit boring, but this measured, like, mature approach, and just say, okay, well, that didn't go well, but I like my team. There's no fires I need to put out. As you said, they're all good players. And if you stuck with this team the entire season, all the players that are in your team right now will be at the top of the points.
Yep.
But the trick of this game is catching those guys when they go off like a firework, sticking them in, finding a place, and then transitioning them out for the next one. And just having a framework of like solid guys who are going to get you the 200 plus or 180 points or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing though, right? As in, I can't believe I've got this ugly slide on the screen the whole time. Let's put the fixtures up.
Great. Save us.
But you're absolutely right. As in, and that's the thing. I'm looking at like, we're going to be wildcarding the next couple of weeks. But if you look at your team, it's not horrendous. Like it's in good shape, and as you say, it's full of players who are going to come good and are going to score good points. But it's just, when are they going to get those massive scores? It's like Reece James last season, and everyone's kind of on him again this season. He does look great, and when he plays right wing back, he's amazing. But last season, it was he'd either get 20 points or he'd get 2 or 1.
Yeah.
And so many people had him and managed to miss all those big points hauls, and it was almost like where you finished was how many of those Reece James hauls you got.
Yeah, but that's the glory of a defender. If he doesn't get an attacking return and there's no clean sheet, it's a solid 2, isn't it? But I mean, sometimes he wasn't getting a clean sheet, but he was getting his goal or what have you, but when he got both right, I mean, it was like amazing.
I know, but but he's an incredible player. But you think like this week, I'm umming and ahhing, and the sensible move is just to go Archer to Mitrovic and just do that. That's very, very simple. Like Mitrovic could get a goal and a couple of bonus against Chelsea, even if they lose the game 3-1. Or I bring in Chilwell and Mitrovic breaks his clean sheet and Chilwell goes off after 75 minutes and I get 1 point. And I've got Chilwell against Liverpool the next week. So it's like the sensible move is probably, because I have been trying to play really sensible. Like you say, I would have been on all those price rises in the past few seasons. My team value would be like 105 million at this point, but I'd probably have a lot less. I'd probably have a lot less points. Although I'm pretty sure I'd have had more of Rodrigo's points because I would have jumped all over him as soon as he started doing anything. I probably would have sold Rashford after game week 1, to be honest, rather than wait until after they got smashed by Brentford.
Yeah, you would have gone straight from Rashford to Rodrigo in the opening game of the season.
Yeah, I probably would. But that would have stood me in good stead.
That would have been great.
And then I could have gone back to Rashford when Rodrigo
got back to Rash. Yeah.
Exactly. But I am trying to be a bit more, because again, all the content creators who are very good at what they do, they know what they're doing. They're always arguing against a hit, aren't they? So they do know what they're doing more often than not.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're going to captain Haaland?
Yeah, pretty sure I will.
Yeah, fair enough.
And you, what do you reckon?
I think I'll captain Haaland as well. Although I think the idea, and again, it's like confirmation bias. I do wonder whether I'm going to bring Chilwell in and just captain him just for fun. Again, like if you know if they appoint Potter, and obviously they play a wing-back system as well.
I know, but Cucurella was one of his players at Brighton.
Yeah, but Cucurella left him, didn't he? I thought that was really funny when people
That's actually true.
When people were joking about like the first name this morning was like Brendan Rodgers, because people were like, hang on, Tuchel's been sacked but Brendan Rodgers hasn't. And then there were people sending those memes around like, imagine Fofana if Brendan Rodgers turned up as your new manager and you're like, I just left you and now you showed up here. But yeah, imagine Reece James and Chilwell in that Brighton system. Like, that is going to be ridiculous. I think that is the move. That is the move. Just bring Chilwell in, I think. But then I find out. Then I find out the caretaker manager favours a 4-4-2, and Chilwell and James are just like rigidly back at right back and left back for this game. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else you want to share with us, Tom, before we call it a night? I definitely won on the thing. We're at just gone an hour, so curly whirly for me.
Yes, I saw that. Curly whirlies in the post, and some built on.
Yeah, exactly.
No, nothing at the moment.
Amazing.
Well, it'll just be quite interesting to see when we're thinking of dropping those wildcards, because actually looking at it now, it really does favour kind of being patient and playing it a bit later on. After 12 looks really good, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does, because I think a lot of players are going to be, especially if people are wildcarding out good players, even though they've got tough fixtures. I don't mind getting rid of one or two as a kind of hedge against it, but if you get rid of all of them and you're getting in Bournemouth players, you're not. They've got great fixtures, but I don't see them doing anything in those games. They're just not a good team, although they did just beat Forest. But yeah, I just think that if you can wildcard and just really just go for it in those like 4 or 5 fixtures before the World Cup, because that's the other thing, right? Like we talk about this, but the World Cup's going to have an influence on this. The reason why I think Kane started the season so well is because he knows that World Cup's coming up, but he's not going to want to get injured when they play Liverpool at home in game week 15. So I think a lot of players are going to be kind of, almost putting themselves in cotton wool ahead of the World Cup.
What's lovely is that Salah isn't going to the World Cup, so I reckon you're going to see him. He's not going to need to do that, and he's probably going to start going absolutely ballistic at some point.
Yeah, and just again, those fixtures for Liverpool: West Ham at home, Forest away, Leeds at home, Tottenham away, fine, but then Southampton at home. Like Salah, I want Salah for those fixtures. He's going to go absolutely mental in those fixtures because he's going to be so pissed off that he's not going to the World Cup.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, cool. Okay, Thank you so much, Tom, for coming on and staying up so late in South Africa where you are. But yeah, to anyone watching, thank you so much for watching till the end. I'll put some timestamps on hopefully tomorrow now. And yeah, Shlee was just taking a break this week, bit of time off, but hopefully he'll be back with us next week. But thank you again, Tom, for joining us. Any comments, please put them in the comments, and we'll come back to you. And yeah, good luck with your game weeks, everyone.
Cheers, Nick.
Night all.